Okay. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. I'll just share the agenda really quick and then we can.
Valerie, that wasn't the Joe on the committee.
That was okay.
Hi, other Joe. We
sorry.
It's okay. I know it's hard to see.
We can give Joe a sec. While he comes, I'll just go ahead and get started. So, all right. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Lovely. So welcome to the first quarterly DEI Networking Summit. The House of Delegate DE&I Committee is really excited to be launching this. So thank you and congratulations for participating with us on the first one. So to get started, we're just gonna go through this agenda, which we're doing now, have a quick DE&I moment. Donnell will then introduce this DEI networking call and why we're doing it. Followed by Joe, who's going to talk about the vision and where we see this going. Then Haley, then the House of Delegate members of the committee, we're going to introduce ourselves. Haley will then go through the toolkit that was developed by this committee, show you how to access it, and some of the things that you can do with it. Then we'll open it up to our members, to you all, to share your experience using the toolkit, where you and your member association or organization is on your D&I journey. And then we'll close with a couple of takeaways. And so with that, there are no questions. I will just go straight to our DE&I minute, not my inbox. Okay. So I thought it was important to just take literally 2 minutes to talk about some recent and upcoming holidays. It's important to be aware of certain cultural or heritage celebrations that our peers may be celebrating, even if it's something that you might not participate in, and it just enhances awareness and overall empathy for each other. So this past Monday, we celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It's the third Monday in every January. And so people typically celebrate this by having a service day. I personally celebrated by reading a book on, I'll give you the title later, but it was essentially the Black American journey through the states, kind of starting from the 1500s. It's been very insightful. If there's something you did that you would like to share that you did for King Day, please put it in the chat. Coming up, I think it's this weekend, on Sunday, is the Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year. It's based on the Chinese calendar, but many Asian countries celebrate Lunar New Year. It's the longest and it's the oldest and longest celebration in the Chinese, holiday calendar. It's about a week long officially for their holiday, but it's a 2-week celebration. This year is the year of the rabbit. If you're interested in celebrating, I recommend you go look more. And if you Google Lunar New Year, like type it in Google, fireworks will pop up. So it was a really cool effect if you're interested in that. And then lastly, we've got Black History Month that's coming up in February. There's an annual theme that's dedicated. I believe this year it's called Black Resistance or Black Resilience. I'll clarify that later in the chat. But Black History Month officially became nationally recognized in 1976. And so ever since then, and really prior to that, but since then officially, this month has been dedicated to honoring, understanding, and remembering a lot of the sacrifices, triumphs, victories that Black Americans and those of in the Pan-African diaspora have endured and triumphed to get us to where we are at this point in American history. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing in a second, and I will pass it off to Donnell.
Thank you so much, Valerie. So I'm Donald Duncan. I believe I've met several of you, actually. This entire vision of the MA DE&I network really came out of a meeting that we had in North Dakota. We had our WEF Max, and it was dedicated to DE&I, and we brought together member associations from around the country who really had an interest in that particular topic. And one of the things that came out of that meeting was when are we going to see each other again? When are we going to do something like this again? Can we do this regularly, etc.? Is this the beginning of something fresh? So that was our chief motivation for formalizing the MA DE&I network. Now, the other motivation is that over the last couple of years, all around the country, there's been a groundswell of activity pertaining to DE&I. Member associations have started DE&I task forces. Member associations have actually launched their own DE&I committees. Up until last week, another member association just launched a DE&I committee. So the buzz and the excitement around DE&I has been picking up around the country. And it's really important that we do this together. Everyone's on a different part of the same journey, and we could all independently attempt to be successful in our silos, or we can say, let's do this together. Let's work as a unit. Let's be one group of people with a joint mission to help each other be successful. And coming out of that WEFMAX, where we really got the opportunity to basically take this concept and test it in a small setting. It was basically 2 days we had to really put our heads together and focus specifically on DE&I. And we got so much good results out of it. Many of the things that we're doing now in the House of Delegates came out of some of the discussion that took place within those couple of days of focused time on the issue of DE&I. And we took all the feedback and we've actually helped shape the course of where the DE&I journey of the WEF House of Delegates is going. So definitely thanks to all of you. There will never be another beginning of the MA DE&I network. So you are experiencing something that will never happen again. This will always be the first time we've had a gathering of minds from around the WEF network. And I must apologize for saying country, because WEF is more than just the United States. The network is global. So we have to acknowledge all of our international NAs. We see you. So appreciate all the work that has been done to get us to this point. WEF staff, the DE&I committee, everyone that has worked together to figure out how best can we do this. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe now to give you a formal understanding of our mission, our vision, what we really want to accomplish. Joe, the chair of our DE&I committee of the House of Delegates. Thank you.
Yeah, I always hate when I have to talk after Donnell, because he's just such a good speaker, and I'm like super pumped and motivated to just go out and kill it, whatever that may be. So appreciate it, Donnell, and I'll probably touch on a lot of the same things, because this is the vision that we had was born out of that meeting. So I got a quick presentation we prepared, so I will share that with everyone here. Before we get started, one of my favorite members is on the call today, Stephen King, out of, I think it's New York, right? New England. And, you know, even though you're a famous author, you show up here to us, you know, and hang out with us. We really appreciate you being there. I got to meet Stephen last year. We did an interview, right, about your D&I journey in New England. So really cool stuff going on in New England. If anybody is interested on, you know, how to get started, some cool tips, tricks, Stephen's your man. He's got all kinds of experience there. So shout out to Stephen. So anyways, our network vision, and really we tried to sum it up there on the bottom. It's a collaborative space for MAs to network along their D&I journey, right? And so as we all, as the groundswell, as Donnell put it, continues to grow, there's nothing better than having everybody work together and really make this super powerful. So that was at the core of the vision, was just being this collaborative space we could all get together. Make sure I can go. There we go. So how I see us right now, we're at the bottom of the mountain, right? This is the very first one. There's the mountain out in the distance that we can all see. We want to scale. We want to be on the top of it. But here we are. We're just getting started. And so I just want to instill that, the excitement that we have in our committee about where this is about to head. So it's an initiative that we came up with in response to our WEFMAX in North Dakota. I won't go into the details there because I think Donnell hit it. But the point being that we really heard that resonate throughout the whole country. There's people from Virginia to Nebraska to Nevada to Alaska was there as well. So we heard it loud and clear. Hey, we need a space. We need something. So that's the vision of what this network really is going to be. The goal, we just want to connect everybody on this call. Leader, representative, if you're just an interested party, so feel free to forward this meeting on to anybody you think that might be interested, that is a WEF member that wants to get involved. Happy to have them show up. If you got something you want to share, all that kind of stuff, this is the space to do it. So down there, we got the four main things that we thought were the best: share best practices, share resources, crowdsource, and provide peer support. This is just rehashing what we talked about at WEFTech, what Donnell presented at WEFTech for the MA Leaders Forum. So if you were a part of that, this is, the time has arrived. The format, we really saw two things that came out of that. One was like the call we're doing today, and we want to try to make that quarterly. If we think we need to do it more often, every 6 weeks, something along those lines, we're happy to host that as the DE&I committee. That's a commitment we've made this year. And then we see like a summit. I mean, basically what happened at that WEFMAX, if we can repeat that, there was a lot of good that came out of that. So some way we can all face-to-face get together. Maybe it's outside of WEFTech, I think was the thought there, but we haven't quite put our finger on what that looks like yet. So that was it. That was my main, I just want to give you our 5 minutes, where we think this is headed, what we think this should be, so you guys can, really make it your own and take it from there. And we'll be continuing to support it, continue to provide the format, continue to, help everybody connect with each other and really crowdsource, peer support, those kind of solutions to make this the best it can be. So with that, I believe I'm handing it over to Valerie to get us started on the introductions.
I like how you did that, because I was going to tap you to do the first introduction. So nicely done. But so the DE&I committee, we're just going to quickly go around and introduce ourselves so you guys know who we are as we talk through the rest of these slides. My name is Valerie Partee. I am the vice chair, serving with Joe for the House of Delegate DE&I committee. Just a little background about me. So I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm an environmental engineer and project manager at Brown & Caldwell. And just walking through my water journey or water story, there's a cuter way to say that, I'm sure. So from an early age, I've always had a desire to kind of create safe spaces for people who look like me, underrepresented groups. And that's been from like high school, undergrad, grad school, and it's smoothly transitioned into the workspace. Once I realized I kind of had that desire, kind of naturally, I began to be aware of my own toxicity. So understanding my own biases, why I react to certain people the way that I did. Like, it took a lot of self-reflection for me to, kind of get a baseline, if that makes any sense. Eventually I joined Brown & Caldwell, and from there, if you think about it, out of all the industries, water is the one where every single voice matters. It's the one where every single person on this planet is touched and affected. And so when you want to talk about having an impact, creating space for people who aren't, presently at the table, it was a natural fit for me in water and at my current firm. Internally at my company, I've done a lot of work creating employee network groups, serving on our diversity council. The list could go on and on, but for the sake of time, I'll pass it on. But this past year, I became a member of the House of Delegates. I'm a delegate at large. And so this is my first time serving on this council. Very excited to see where this journey takes us. And I'm going to pass it to you, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you, Valerie. That was a perfect start. My name is Joe Navis. I'm a delegate at large as well. I'm actually representing the construction industry. So, to kind of tell my DE&I story, that's really the angle that I've came from. Do a lot of collaborative delivery and just realize that, man, we have better outcomes when every voice is heard, when every voice is at the table. And I'm just talking like a simple infrastructure project, right? But you really can expand that idea to anything that you got going on in life. So that's really where I, started to really make waves in this space, I guess. And then, I saw this opportunity within WEF when I showed up saying like, yeah, I work for a general contractor. Yeah, I work for a contractor. And there wasn't that many other folks around. So I said, shoot, this is a great opportunity to kind of just maybe even look like a lot of the same people that are currently in leadership roles, right? But just point out the differences that we all have, even on other types of levels. So that was really how I got started in this space and where my DE&I background comes from mainly. So with that, I'll pass it to Amy.
Thank you, Joe. So I'm Amy Baker. I'm a delegate representing AZ Water in Arizona. So I grew up in a fairly diverse community, and as that world grew from my smaller childhood community and expanded to the one I now have as an adult. So in Arizona, there are times when you can feel when you're in an environment that's not only not diverse, but it's not accepting of diversity. And being in these situations has always been unsettling to me. And I used to just run back to my safe place and quietly protest by choosing carefully which businesses I would be a patron of. But prejudice has overtly escalated over the last decade, and even as a mild introvert, I can't stand by and watch people be marginalized due to social injustices. So the DE&I programs and committees and everything that we're starting to hear about that hasn't been around before, at least that I haven't been made aware of, it's not only providing a platform for me to advocate for others and help cultivate an environment that everyone can thrive in, but it gives me the tools I need to use my voice in those queasy situations. So my journey technically started when AZ Water started a DE&I committee, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So that's really when my journey started, but I have a lot of experiences that got me to where I am. And I will pass it on to Haley.
Awesome. I love hearing you guys' stories, even though I get to work with you on a committee. It's been really enjoyable. So hi, everyone. I'm Haley Goddard. I'm a delegate representing the Pacific Northwest Clean Water Association. I live in Boise, Idaho. I work as an environmental process engineer at Corollo Engineers. And my DE&I journey, so my dad, I grew up with a dad in the military, so I've moved over 10 times in my life. And even as an adult, not tied to the military, I've still moved multiple times. I'm just kind of a nomad, I guess. But, my whole childhood and life has been shaped by people and just getting to know different types of people. And it just has been hugely motivating to me. And I feel new to this DE&I journey just because I now have access to a platform and an organization where I can really dive in and challenge myself and challenge my environment around me, and just feed that people passion. There's nothing I want more than to be able to elevate the stories of a diverse group of people around me and to learn from those stories too. And so that is what motivates me and what I am looking forward to in this journey and getting involved in this organization. So with that, I'll pass it to Jeff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff Berlin. I'm a delegate at large that I actually explicitly represent DE&I to the House of Delegates based on some of my experience being involved in this committee in the past couple of years and this year as well. I feel that one of the roles that I have, I'm a consultant, I'm a white cisgender male. I kind of fit the old school paradigm of what a lot of this industry has been like, and I have the responsibility as a result to be able to speak up to my peers about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when I think back to when I first got involved in my member association, Rocky Mountain WEA, or my first times to WEFTech or being in any way involved in a WEF event. I remember I was an officer in RMWEA and I got invited to an event that occurs the Saturday night of WEFTech, which is the Member Association Leader Happy Hour. And I can remember feeling this, I don't know anyone in this room. And I'm sure that happens to a lot of people. But I did have the inherent advantage of looking like more of the people in the room and not having an additional disadvantage of not only not knowing anyone, but not seeing myself represented. So I acknowledge that. And that's one of the things that I try to represent, is that by hitting some of these things, by getting more diverse representation, that it can feel more equitable and inclusive to the communities we represent. So I'm going to try, I know we tend to use a lot of acronyms. I'll try to be good about keeping in the chat any acronym or term. And if you have a question about one of them, please post it in the chat.
Kelsey, did you want to introduce yourself? No pressure.
Sure, I can introduce myself. My name is Kelsey Hurst. I'm the WEF staff liaison to the House of Delegates. And I really enjoy hearing all of your journeys and your stories. And I think my DE&I story, I grew up in a small town in Western Pennsylvania. And so I think then I went to college outside Philadelphia. And when I went to the big city, so to speak, I really felt like I had kind of grown up under a rock and lived under a rock. And I think that in and of itself was really eye-opening, just to see what was beyond that small town. But one of my best friends also, he identifies he's gay. And so growing up, and he came out in high school. And so when he came out to me, he and I both, we went to a school board meeting and we actively worked to get the language changed with the mission statement of the school to be more inclusive of the LGBT community. And I also participated in a group with him where we met at, it was kind of a support group where we met at someone's house, and we basically just provided an open forum for people who were similar in similar boats, and also just supportive of the LGBTQ community in the area to talk and have a safe space. So that in particular has always been something that's been really, really near and dear to me. And but I think as I've kind of grown and experienced a little bit more of the world, I've also felt more comfortable speaking out about things and standing up for what's right in the marginalized communities that we all know and have within our bigger communities. So with that, I will hand it back over to Joe or whoever is going to jump in next.
Yeah, and I think one other person I was thinking of is Alexi on the call, by chance. Kendrick, maybe not, but Alexi is the speaker-elect, and so she has a spot on our.
I see you called. So I didn't see it. I'm
committee as well. So that's probably. I think that covers everybody. So Valerie, I'll let you take it away.
Actually, Haley's up next.
I was wondering. Awesome. I couldn't remember when I fell on the agenda. So All right, so I am going to take a moment and walk us through one of the available resources that was developed by the House of Delegates and what we refer to as a DE&I Toolkit. So this toolkit is available through the online member portal. The website is in process of being updated, but it'll still be available by logging in and accessing the resources available there. If you have any issues accessing it, I always say, ask Kelsey. Sorry, Kelsey. But anyway, so I will go ahead and share my screen, and I'm just going to kind of spotlight a couple tools. And then at the end, I'd like to open it up to hear any ways that your member association has maybe used the tool or something, like taken a similar approach, or have other best practices to add on to it. So when you open the toolkit, there is a file called the starter kit. And this is a document that basically provides information to, make the case for DE&I within your member association. It helps define it, present the benefits and like the business case for it, and then identify some initial first steps that you can take in kind of initiating this journey if you're starting out. And a lot of these tools are maybe structured as a starter tool. However, as I've become more familiar with the different tools, I definitely see that there's value you can get out of any of these tools, regardless of where you are in your DE&I journey. There's always something more that you can get out of it. But as you click through this starter kit and get the information about DE&I and the benefits and start your journey, there's a checklist with suggestions, but then it also highlights the rest of the tools that are available as part of this toolkit. So tool number 1 and tool number 2 are related. They can, I think, be used together or kind of either or. So tool number 1 is a presentation or a slide deck that can be used with a facilitator guide that's also available in the toolkit to basically have a meeting with your board, committee chairs, I think even within a committee or just like interested parties within your member association to talk about what DE&I means within that setting. And here, I'll just start clicking through. So what it means to you, spaces within your MA. And I think, honestly, you can sub that word MA to committee or whatever platform you guys are meeting on. That's why I think this can be adaptable to wherever you are. And then going into kind of mission statements and visions and how principles of DE&I can be represented in that. And there is a tool, that facilitator guide kind of makes suggestions about kind of how to pull this together and then walk through it, which is really helpful. Tool number 2, which is related, titled Action Ideas for Defining DE&I. It's kind of an alternative. You don't want to use something as formal as a slide deck. It defines, I believe, 3 steps that you act as guidelines for how you can approach having these conversations within your member association or setting, whatever you're looking at. And I really liked in step 3, just highlighting, identifying how your strengths and your particular group can serve DE&I. It's always good to challenge yourself too, but even within your wheelhouse or your powerhouse, there are, low-hanging fruit and opportunities that you can really emphasize what you already have available to promote DE&I. So moving on, toolkit number 3 provides some example mission and vision statements that can be used if you are looking to define mission and vision statements for your committee or MA overall, which is really helpful to kind of kickstart brainstorming and what works and is most representative of your member association. And then toolkit number 4 is, if I had to pick a favorite, probably my favorite. So this is a collection of best practices that came out of the initial survey of member associations that was used to kind of generate this toolkit. So this is a list of various best practices related to DE&I that you can pick and choose from and build on. There's just a lot of really great ideas in here kind of diving even more in depth. This 6 here just has a bunch of different initiative and program ideas that can be implemented, which is really great. And an expansion of this tool number 4 is this inclusive best practices for conferences and meetings. And it's another thing, I just highlighted a statement here, just pick 1 or 2 ideas as you're planning an event or a conference or even just a meeting to implement and promote DE&I within that setting. And then last but not least is this Inflow Program Starter Kit. So Inflow stands for Introducing Future Leaders of Water, I think. Jeff can correct me in the chat. But this gives an outline of what the program WEF, an outline of the program that WEF has established and how it can be adapted for your member association and the different paths that are available. So there's a program within Inflow called STEM Path, which focuses on enrolling undergraduate or graduate students from historically underrepresented ethnic and racial groups. And then there's a career tech path, which partners with community-based organizations in job readiness programs. And there's different resources available that are linked within this toolkit to provide materials for either of those paths, and people available at WEF to kind of help mentor and guide you through that, as well as other member associations listed here who have developed their own Inflow programs. So I went really fast, I'm sorry, but I wanted to take a moment now and just open it up to the member associations or any member on this call to maybe share any ways that they have utilized these tools or something similar on their DE&I journey within their member association. And I have a few people I can call on, but I will just start by leaving it open if anyone wants to speak up.
I can share from the PNCWA member association. I'm Shelby Smith, by the way. I'm the chair of the Racial and Social Justice Subcommittee. From this toolkit, RSJ, as we call ourselves, we've been using the event data collection. We've started implementing some of that, collecting data about our attendees, what their demographics are, and reporting that information out because our Member Services Committee does have an interest in tracking our diversity metrics and identifying areas of improvement. For example, getting more people of color, getting more women at the conference, just as an example. And we're also getting more integrated with the conference planning committee to provide that RSJ lens, as we like to call it, to the abstract review process. So making that more inclusive.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, Shelby.
I can share a little bit. So my name is Adib Amini. I live in Iowa, and I serve on a DE&I committee in Nebraska as well. I do some work throughout the Midwest. And so I wanted to start something in Iowa as well. So about a week ago, we created a committee for Iowa, a DE&I committee. And it took, so I went to the board meeting in November and spoke with the board about creating a DE&I committee. And there was a bit of a mixed response. They asked me to come back and talk to them some more about it. And so when I came back a little bit more prepared, essentially with these tools. And we basically went through them and talked through them together, especially the first few. They had asked me to prepare a kind of charter document. And so especially tool number 3, the example vision statements, I used those to create a sort of charter document for the committee. And then at that board meeting, they were able to create a committee on an ad hoc basis with the intent to formalize it within the coming year, to be able to revise the formal paperwork to make it a committee. And so yeah, the tools are very helpful and helped guide the conversation and also I think kind of show that this is something that WEF is promoting on a national level, and it's something that is encouraged and desired. And yeah, so that's some of our experience.
That's awesome to hear how those tools are able to help you. I'm really glad. definitely, if you also have any feedback on through the conversations you have for any improvements, please feed that through our committee so we can be adapting this toolkit as we move forward too.
Hi, I'm Kathy in Virginia. I'll share, I was at the WEF Max in Fargo, and it was fantastic, as Donnell said. And we're lucky enough to have Donnell come to our annual meeting in September and participate in a D&I panel discussion, which was also fantastic. But my organization has definitely used the toolkit. Speaking on behalf of our D&I committee, we first formulated a task force that kind of looked at what programs we had in place and what would be the best recommendation of where to go. And then once that was done, they came with the recommendation they wanted to form a full committee. And so the committee was approved, and they used the toolkit to help structure their mission and vision, first of all. So that was very helpful. We did kick off our inflow program as well. We had it for the first time this year at our annual meeting, and they utilized the resources in the toolkit. And we've also utilize some of the tools to bring to all of our committees, to things for like the inclusive events and things like that, just to kind of, obviously provide that resource to all of our leaders. So we're continuing to look at things, adapt, evolve, and learn, but we're using the things that WEF has put into place to help us move forward.
That's awesome. Yes, I really love and want to reiterate how important it is to make those resources available to your committees, because I think there's a lot of opportunity within those smaller groups too, beyond a board or governing organization. So thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, this is Steve King from NUIA, the New England region. One, just want to say happy to be on this call. I think it's great to finally see everybody, and I'm glad we're all getting together on these quarterly calls. I think it's an excellent way to start this D&I journey for all of us. The toolkit specifically for NUIA, we've been using them just almost to kind of help build between our different regions. So we're part of 6 different states. So we're hoping to use like the base foundation of those toolkits to kind of spread it around the different region, different states, because there are different groups within each state that we're trying to encompass and include in our conversations with D&I. And then also the last piece, we're at our annual conference coming up starting Sunday. We're kicking off with a panel discussion and a workshop group for the inflow program. So we're hoping to use that last piece that you just described and help build our inflow program for NUIA.
Awesome. That is great news. So, and feel free if anyone has any questions for the people sharing and what their experience has been, feel free to chime in with that too.
I'd like to chime in next following Stephen King. He just spoke with my counterpart, Walt Walker. I'm from the New York Water Environment Association, and I'm the vice chair of our DE&I committee. In New York, we kind of had our committee going more or less alongside of WEF's efforts. We started as a task force in 2020 early on, and then became a full-fledged committee. We've got an average of 12 active members, and we meet bi-weekly to kind of continue our discussions. So one of our greatest early achievements is the inflow program that we did a soft start on in our annual meeting 2021. It was virtual, but we're going to invite those participants back to join the President's Reception Dinner for this year. So we have split the inflow program, focusing on the STEM path for the annual meeting in New York City and drawing students from the New York City area. And then the spring meeting, we focus on the kind of career technical path, where we've last year we reached out to the Onondaga Earth Corps group and had participants from them. So those are the other 2 avenues that we've been exploring. We've also had devoted our winter 2020 Clear Waters publication to a DE&I theme. and we have had DE&I discussions through our annual meeting and the spring meeting. This past spring, we had a DE&I themed discussion, panel discussion, which was actually a lot of fun to do. And it was really well received too. We had Dr. Sim Covington from Finger Lakes Community College come. He's done a lot of work in our area, specifically working with police departments. And I tapped into him because the comment that I got from our chief of police was that his presentation wasn't anything that anybody was expecting. So we brought him back, and for a standalone event where we also had invited Beverly Marshall to speak with us about neural diversity too. So there's a lot of things that we're plugging along on, and one of the things that we try to do is give ourselves grace, and that we know things aren't going to move as quickly as we want them to, but understanding that we've made great strides, and working with other member associations like Stephen King, we're getting ready for our joint spring conference this coming year. So we'll be collaborating with other groups, the NIWIA specifically. So I'm very excited about what we've done so far. We have been incorporating the WEF Toolkit too, as you pulling from some of those resources too, and having them on the website, and also recognizing too that a lot of this needs to come from top down. So it was very important for us to get a statement from our NIWIA board of directors and have that displayed prominently on our website too, because this change doesn't happen within this committee. It takes all of us, and it takes the leadership from the top down.
Thank you so much. That's really amazing to hear everything you guys have accomplished. Is Bill Davis on the call? We had some email correspondence that he might have some updates to share too.
Hey, Haley, how are you?
Hey, there you are. Good, thank you.
Well, I apologize for being late right out of the gate because I thought the meeting was at 2, and that's what happens when you have too many meetings. So I did want to share a little bit about my journey, and it intertwines itself with my local MA as well as WEF and other outside resources and other MAs. So first of all, back in 2019 and 2020, when I became president of the Water Environment Association of South Carolina, I created two things that integrated well together when I fast forward to today. So I created a workforce ad hoc committee, and I created a diversity ad hoc committee. And the diversity ad hoc committee didn't get to take a lot of ground off because, as you know, we had this little thing called COVID. And so we did form officially and get started with the workforce, which ended up being a joint between AWWA and WEASC. So that committee started moving forward, but we didn't get where I wanted to get. And Nikita moved me very strongly in her speeches in the WEF Maxes that we did in the virtual meetings, where I actually hosted one of those first virtual WEF Maxes, and I apologize in advance for how bad that really was, probably. But Nikita's part was really good, and she convinced me that we really needed to do something, because one of the documents I found, I can't remember the name of it, and I was looking for it. I usually have it in my file. But one of the documents I found would talked about the water industry, not so much engineers, but it was talking about workers in general, maybe engineers that work with a municipality. It talked about workers in general that work with municipalities, plumbers, other people that operators that are intertwined in the water and wastewater industry. And it showed those statistics that were staggering that we've all seen now. But back then in 2020, those statistics were not as stark in reality for me. The 85% male, the 70% white male, the fact that we didn't have a lot of Asians, we didn't have a lot of people of color that were involved in our organization. So that's something that became near and dear to me. So I started trying to figure out what can we do to change that. And as I worked a little bit with the Workforce Development Committee, I found I've heard some of my sister association folks from NIWIA, and I found their diversity. They had a committee that I believe that's the chair of AWWA was part of that committee. Is that correct? I don't know. Somebody can correct me, but that they put on a really good webinar, and I'm kind of de facto member of the NUIA Member Association because they let you join for free if you want to just see what's going on. And so I get a lot of their stuff, and they had a free webinar during that time frame, and I really learned a lot because they further compounded those statistics that were standing out in my mind. And then I heard, some things that, from my current president, the Water Environment Association, he was talking about some of the things that he faced as a Black male in the water industry. And it was very touching to me to hear his story. And I've told that story a while back, and I won't belabor it today. But as I began to think, I called him and I said, I really want to push for this workforce, for this Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, because we really need it. And I found a chair. So I found someone to chair the committee, and she has a heart for women in water, and she also has a heart for bringing more young people in, and of course, generally open to bringing in other people of color. And I'm super excited. Her name is Babs Johnson, and she's going to be our interim chair as she comes in and starts to form the committee. And I know a lot of you will know this name, but it is one of near and dear to my heart. Rebecca West has volunteered to join our committee, and I'm super excited about Rebecca being a part of that. And so we've already got about 6 members, and we're working on building that membership. But I wanted to tell you the rest of the story. So we began to go into the WEF toolkits, and obviously our Speaker of the House, Donnell, has helped me tremendously, and Joe has been really helpful in giving me documentation. So I went back and I found one of the things I found from NUIA was the path to membership. That's something I'm going to use in a lot of ways to help the committee get started. But then I found, and I can't remember if Donnell sent it or I was just looking for it on the internet, but there's a Word document for the official WEF Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion policy. And it is basically what you would see as a charter, which I can show you. I don't know if I can share screen. I don't know if that's appropriate at this time, but I'll certainly be glad to if it's something I can do. And I can share this with you all.
Yeah.
I can send this to you for use. I basically took pretty much stole everything I needed to steal from NUIA, and then I went back in and I saw I don't know, my little window disappeared, y'all. Excuse me. I gotta put my window back up. Where'd it go? I apologize. I'm losing my Teams window. There it is. Okay. I can't talk unless I see myself talking. So I went back to Georgia and I talked to Pam Burnett in Georgia, and I started looking back, and Pam and I are good friends, and I won't tell you some of the stories that we have. We have some good stories, but Pam was quick to get involved. Susan Lanier was also worked here, and Susanna Lanier worked here in South Carolina, so she helped me. They made me a member for a day of the Georgia Association of Water Professionals. So I was able to go in and get a lot of the information. And we previously had been hearing on the Speaker of the House, our speaker has been talking about challenging us to move forward and getting these DE&I committees started in our member associations. And of course, being on the workforce for strategic planning, I wanted to do that. So I took that challenge on, and we moved forward, and I took some information from him, and I saw that he was actively involved in the DE&I committee back in 19 timeframe when Nikita was talking about it in that WEFMAX, that virtual WEFMAX in 2020. So I saw him intertwined in the challenge, in the formation of WEF's DE&I. And then as I delved into the Georgia Association, I found that they had a DE&I committee since 2015 or so. And guess who the chair was? Our Speaker of the House, Donnell. So I was able to just pretty much plagiarize everything you did, Donnell. And I was able to come in and I created this charter for our, it's basically a lot of it's word for word in what's in the WEF committee. So we got this passed past Friday, and we got this passed unanimously in the Water Environment Association of South Carolina. And I pontificated probably way too long. Clint Riley is our junior delegate. He's on the call as well. He probably can contest that I talk too much. But this is a really good, we go into the same thing that WEF does, and we talk about what does that mean. But the key words that I really liked in here were that diversity, equity, and inclusion are not mutually exclusive. The success of one is dependent on the other. Therefore, the three intentionally connected to further describe as others. So you go down here and you talk about that, but then up here, creating an inclusive and equitable environment is vital to ensuring the diverse perspectives of our members are valued and considered. And we talk about, basically our organization and the leadership in our organization needs to represent the people we serve. If we're not representing the people we serve, then we need to reach out more because we're not doing our due diligence. And I think bold leadership is something that we've all embraced. And I encourage you, if you have not already embraced bold leadership, my president, the black male that I told you about, he told me, he said, don't go out on a limb too far, Bill. I don't want to see you getting put in a box somewhere. I said, look, man, my Speaker of the House told me to lead boldly, and that's what we're going to do. And I think that I encourage you all to look into it, the value for workforce, the value for equity, and the value of bringing people into your organization. We're building our base. We're not ostracizing our base. We want to add to our base. So keep those words in mind. And thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Bill. That was amazing. So time check, we're going to move on with our agenda. But before we move on, I hope she doesn't mind. But if Ataya, would you mind introducing yourself? We have the WEF president in our attendees today, and it'd be great for you guys to get to know her. Thank you. You can blame Stephen.
No worries. I invited myself to the meeting, and it's awesome to see so many people on here. So kudos to everyone for getting this engaged in response to the request at WEFMAX. And yeah, y'all don't need me. There's a whole lot of awesome resources that were shared and that I think we hope that you share amongst each other. But it's really encouraging, really, really awesome. So that's all I want to say. Happy to help in any way I can. Feel free to reach out to me, but you've already got the awesome folks of the WEF Board DE&I Committee and then the House Board DE&I Committee who've been doing great work and providing some really awesome resources for you all to do further work and move DE&I forward in your respective MAs. So yeah, keep joining, keep sharing, and keep pushing forward. I really, really appreciate all that you do for WEF. So thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll turn it back to you, Valerie.
Okay. Thanks. That was really great. Actually, we're going to kind of continue with the conversation and the sharing that you all did just a little while ago. That was excellent. We're going to pivot to PollEV for a second, and let's be gracious because it hasn't been doing what I needed to do today. So I just sent a link in the chat, and I will share my screen at the same time. Let me know if the link didn't pop up. Your question, Bill. All right, so it's working. Go ahead and log in.
PollEV, is that what it is?
PollEV, yes.
Okay, I can drop it in there. Okay.
There's a link in the chat. So the first question here, if you can see my screen or if you're on PollEV, we just want to know which member association you're representing. This is the default map that comes in PollEV. So I know we're not going to have anyone from Antarctica, but it would be great to see if we've got anyone from Canada or a Mexico association. Indra, do you have a question?
Sorry, I was going to ask that we have few people from our chapter here in Ontario, Canada.
Okay, yep, I see. Happy to have you. Okay, we've got good representation. Also, has everyone been able to get into PollEV? Does anyone raise your hand if you're having an issue? I'm gonna take that as a perfect success rate. That's how I'll take that. Okay. So next, I'm gonna go to the next one if it'll let me. Maybe it will. Ha! All right. Maybe not Illinois, but what is the first word that comes to mind when you hear the word diversity? It can be in the context of WEF, your personal MA, your own story outside of water. We've got different, acceptance, compassion, people is in the middle there. I love that. Welcoming, beautiful, inclusion, stories. It's moving fast, so I'm trying to keep up with these. But these are great words. I see health, talent, I mean, Illinois is still hanging in there strong. So shout out to Illinois for what diversity means to me. This is beautiful. All in, blended variety. Okay, chef's kiss. I love that. Heterogeneous representation. Okay, I'll stop it there. So our next question. So what does it mean to actually feel included? I'm pretty sure all of us have had a moment in our life where we feel a little bit like the outsider, maybe a little bit like an imposter. So what is it when you're like welcomed into the room? Belong, that's a strong one. Welcomed. I mean, I just said that, but still, that's still a win. That's still a win. Wow, trust, warm, safe. I'm guessing that meant not judged, community, comfort. I think that was invited to the dance, honored. Wow, this is moving fast. Opinion. Okay. The center is welcomed and valued. So thank you guys for sharing that. Authentic. Okay. They're still rolling. Okay, I'll leave it be for now. I'm going to stop that one and go to our next one. Okay. So take a second to read this. It feels a little bit busy, but where is everyone on their personal DE&I journey? Us as delegates and other members of WEF, I know we're all on kind of different patches here. It looks like we've got pretty decent representation here. Early learning is the strongest one. We've got quite a few people implementing DE&I work. And I would love to hear from you in a second about some of the things that you're doing. A lot of us are at least discussing it regularly or teaching others. No one's in the blue bubble. That's okay. That means we're all past that first leg of the DE&I journey. And if not, you're still absolutely welcome here. And so with that, I will go to the next one. If that'll work. Yes, so the question is, what is your member association currently doing related to DE&I? We've got some that haven't quite started yet. Inflow, I saw that there were a couple of member associations working on that. The committee has been created, still in the learning stage for a lot of folks. Ooh, I did not. Okay, I can't scroll on this. Exploring, active, hosting discussions, workforce development. Not quite yet. Inflow is trickling down. This is not the most readable survey format. I think we can all agree. Operator forum. Oh, wait. I'm gonna mute you, Indra, for a second. I saw something just a second ago about the operator. Oh, I've lost it, but you know who you are. And after this, I would love for you to share some of the work that you're doing to get operators more engaged, creating videos and sharing it on social media, unconscious bias workshops, hosting discussions, truth and reconciliation. There it is, operators forum at all conferences. Okay, these are excellent. And even if you're not, you haven't quite started anything, your committee is just having conversations, that's perfectly okay. That's what this network is established for, to kind of help us grow together on this journey. So that's excellent. All right, next question. For those who have kind of started a DE&I committee, started some of those conversations, or people who are interested in it but haven't gotten a lot of headway, what, if any, are some roadblocks that you have faced or are dealing with on this DE&I journey? Lack of information, learning to recognize bias, comfort zone, getting enough people to work on the committee, finding a champion, politics, fear of change is solid, fear from leadership, haters, who is that? Time, lack of diversity in our membership, lack of interest, and people who feel threatened. I think that's worth a conversation on its own. Kind of like Bill said earlier, you know, it's adding more people to the table, not taking seats away. I did not say it the same way Bill did, but the whole purpose of it is to bring people in. So lack of diversity from membership, member involvement. Okay, uncomfortable avoidance. These are great. I've got like 2 more questions left, and then I'll stop begging you guys with these survey questions. And we can send out this information so that you guys can all have it as well for your own member associations. Last question. How do you guys want to use this quarterly call moving forward? So like Donnell and Joe mentioned earlier, it came out of a WEFMAX meeting, and we really wanted this to be networking. Networking, helping share activities, sharing success stories. Okay. Sharing information, lessons learned. I like that. Sharing ideas that will increase member interest, especially for those who are struggling on that membership interest front. Lessons learned. And I think from implementing new D&I initiatives, I think that can be inside of WEF and outside of it in our own personal organizations. Sharing resources, hearing stories, connection, motivation. Love you guys. Okay. Case studies. All right. This is good. Joe, I know you're looking at this, but we've got some ideas for our future calls. Joint initiatives with surrounding states would be good. Thinking about the New England Association, that might be a good story to share. Breakout groups. Okay. So I'm going to pause that one and go on to the next one here. Recruitment ideas, also a great one. Last question here. If at all, do you all see any spaces within your member associations or committees or, you know, path to leadership, anything like that, that might not have equal access, something that you could use support on within your member association in terms of access? Thank you. Okay. We've got one yes. I think I meant to word this question differently. In leadership roles, okay. Not sure, that's fair. Ensuring there are lactation stations at our conferences. Tenured people of color with authority. Poor education, poor operator membership, encouraging new people to get involved, operators. Honestly, I think that whole operator workforce development piece, we could almost dedicate one of these quarterly calls to that and how to increase membership engagement. Geographic minorities, job titles, meeting times, data, childcare, conferences. Okay, these are excellent. And I'm going to let that one kind of keep rolling in the background. But at this point in the meeting, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but thank you guys. So we wanted to take some time and let you guys introduce yourself, similar to what members were doing earlier, talking about their wins or successes using that toolkit. We want to broaden that to see if anyone would like to share their own water story and where they and their member association are in terms of DE&I and any questions that you might have for your peers. There we go. So I'm going to pause and I'll wait.
I would love to share. My name is Christina. I'm the laboratory supervisor for the city of St. Charles, Illinois, but I'm also with Illinois Water Environment Association. Hello, everyone. I wanted to share 3 things that we're doing with our committee that have gotten a lot of interest and gotten some membership, some members joining the committee. So we've all heard of the Women in Water Conference. So we have that in the Women in Water panel, rather. We have that at our conference now. But this year I found a DE&I Adventures game, and I'm hoping to be able to share that with you all at our next quarterly meeting. It's kind of like a choose your own adventure, and the person that created the program will be hosting it and providing like a demo for us at our conference. It's kind of like based on your interest and what skill set people have and how they're bringing it to the table, you may want to tap into their interest and kind of provide it not only at the association level, but also in your place of employment. But there's 2 series that we started that have been really successful. So one is Our Stories. And so once a quarter, what we'll do is we'll basically host and highlight one of the water industry giants or a glass ceiling breaker or someone who has just successfully navigated the industry despite any obstacles. It's like a 45-minute presentation with a 15-minute Q&A afterwards. And I just started the Let's Chat series, and that is where we're currently working on focusing on getting students into the pipeline, into the water industry. So some of you may have seen my email invite to join in the chat. I have high schools, colleges, and universities that are ready to create a water program or have created a water program. And they're having trouble with marketing and making it successful, or they just kind of want to hear what roadblocks that they might be able to avoid. So anyone who's interested in popping in that discussion, please respond to the email, and I will take you off the email blast if you don't want to be in there, but we'll be having those pretty regularly. And I think that that's information that you may want to also take to areas and schools in your area. There are always a requirement for high schools to post jobs outside of just the kind of norm. So and here in Illinois, there is a state requirement that each high school has to provide some sort of guest speaker in a field and also provide job postings. So some of the operator postings that we have, they only require a high school diploma. So don't forget to post your job postings at high schools in your local area. That's a great way to pull in a demographic that matches your area. So that's basically what we're working on. What I wanted to put out there to everyone is something that I kind of feel would be a great idea, and I'm working with it slowly. I have one person that's willing to do it. Nadine Robinson of New Orleans, Louisiana, is willing to create a video about her job, like a 1-minute, 30-second video about her job. She's going to take like video of her doing cool stuff with the operator side of the wastewater treatment plant, and then she's going to kind of put some words over it and kind of just kind of, I guess, boost and highlight her job. And what I want that to be able to do is kind of, a lot of students have no idea that this industry even exists. And so, I mean, me personally, I found out about it on a tour with my university, and I was mesmerized and went for it. And I've been here ever since. But I think that these little videos, these little snippets of all the different facets of the water industry, whether it's operators, water, wastewater engineers, whatever cool things you may be doing in politics, just the whole aspect of it, I think it would be really motivating for students to see different faces and different jobs that are out there, and they could kind of, have a little light bulb go off and maybe have some interest in the field. So it's just nice meeting everyone. I look forward to working with you, and don't mind my emails. If you don't want to be on the list, just let me know, but I really hope you'll participate. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thanks, Christina. Did you say you put a link in the chat? Did I miss that?
No, I sent out an email blast, but I can put the doodle poll in the chat for the discussion. And then when you go into the doodle poll, if you type in your email, then I'll make sure that I send you any follow-ups with it. Thank you.
Okay, that'll be great. Thanks. Anyone else want to share? I see Stephen called out Andrea and Steve.
Yeah, Valerie, I just wanted to welcome the WEF House of Delegates DE&I Board Committee. Definitely wanted to shout them out. They have been instrumental in helping to bring the vision of the WEF board to bear on the rest of the organization. So thanks to all the members. If you're a member of the committee, I don't know can you raise your hand or drop your name in the chat so everybody knows who you are and that you're here, but we're definitely pleased to have you here. Thanks for joining the call today. Appreciate you all. I saw a couple of names. I know Steve is here, Steve Hamai, and a couple others. So drop your name in the chat and just say you're a member of the board's DE&I committee so folks can acknowledge that you're here.
Thanks, Donnell. Clarence, do you want to share?
Yes, before I make my comment, I want to make sure, Valerie, did we meet in West Tech and I gave you a business card?
Possibly.
Okay, all right, it was during a breakfast. I just want to make sure.
Oh, yes. Hi, sorry, yes.
And the reason why I'm saying that is that I see that tree was not put in waste because you did send me this invite. I also shared this invite with our chair. But first of all, I'm Clarence B. Rout, and I'm with CWA. I'm elected president for CWA. Our president, CC Nang, has indicated that or put forward a D&I work group for our MA. Right now, Chaka Carmen, she was on, but she had to drop off at 2 o'clock for another meeting. So I see Laura is on here also. So basically, we just want to pass on that Chaka is working on that. We have an ad hoc committee right now, but we're working on putting together a full committee, DE&I. Also, I'm also with WSSC Water, and Eric McFarland is our lead division manager for our DE&I. So he's also a member of the CWA committee under Chaka. So we're moving forward within our organization and also with CWA. So Valerie, I want to thank you once again because I know I gave you my business card. I was out of town and I came back and I saw this invite. So that's why I was late in passing it on to Chaka. But once again, thank you. And this will be very helpful for us as we move forward. And I just want to big a nice shout out to somebody I see that's attending all the way from Panama. Hello, Aisha.
Thanks, Clarence. Good to see you again. I think Rosaline, hand is up.
Rosaline.
Rosaline,
yes.
Thank you.
Rosie is what everyone calls me. I just make it difficult by putting my actual name on my IDs. But I just wanted to, I'm from New York Water Environment Association. I'm one of members of our House of Delegates contingent, and I work for Buffalo Sewer in Buffalo, New York. And instead of going into my whole water story, I think I want to just talk about the Operators Forum that I mentioned in the chat real quick. We've been doing that for the past, in New York, we have both a spring meeting, which travels the state, I live in Buffalo. We are 7.5 hours from New York City. I am far closer to Toronto, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh than I am to New York City. So just for a context, those cities are both within 3 hours of here. And so we have the spring conference that travels the state and goes to the different cities across the state. And then our annual meeting is always held in New York City, where over half the population of the state actually lives. And so at those, I am a licensed professional engineer who has spent my entire professional life working in the municipal sector as a public employee rather than as a consultant. And so I get to moderate a forum where I go and grab operators and collection system personnel from across the state, and we sit down and have a talk about different topics. And we'll talk about, one of the most recent ones was, okay, the engineers built it, the engineers designed it, the contractors built it, now you have to operate it. What went wrong? And issues that they've had of that valve that's 40 feet up in the air that has no gangway to get to it. You have to go drag out the ladder every time. And they didn't even put one of those nice chains that gets tangled up off of it. And so that's been things we've talked about. And the upcoming annual meeting, I'm going to talk about, we just had this huge winter storm blizzard in Buffalo. And so I've got a couple operators from Buffalo Sewer that are going to talk about the emergency response planning and the operator's role in it. But what we found in the past was that operators never submitted abstracts for conferences because municipal employees have a hard enough time trying to submit an abstract for a conference. It's usually a consultant submits it for us, and then we also, the operators are the least likely to submit abstracts, and the content is generally not geared towards them. And so then no operators are present at those conferences, even though they actually represent the majority of our membership. They're not there because there's nothing for them. And with the Operators Forum, they get their operators credits, and there's something that actually engages with them. And as we've geared the forum towards topics and make sure that it actually involves some element of design, we can actually get engineering credits as well. So we can actually have the engineers learning from the operators instead of just having the engineers being the experts and the operators being kind of this second tier of professionals. So I just thought I'd share that because Michelle put it in the chat that the other piece was that we included right in our DE&I, what our charge was, that it was also to include the vast majority of our membership, the operators.
Thank you, Rosa. Amy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so just to build on that, thank you for sharing. AZ Water does a pretty extensive operators track at our conference every year. We have two separate tracks. One is more on the wastewater side, one is on the water side. So I just think that might roll into, you know, a future networking call and how we can increase operator engagement and the diversity within the operators. So I just wanted to add that on since the topic was relative.
Thanks, Amy. Emily?
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me. I'm from Rocky Mountain, and this has been great. Lots of ideas. I've been furiously jotting down notes. Just talking about the toolkit. So Jeff Berlin led us through the slides exercise at one of our board and committee chair planning meetings, and that was great. A lot of good ideas that came out of that, and a lot of those ideas have helped spawn our DEI committee. We're working with our local section of AWWA on that. So we've gotten a few ideas going, and we're just going to keep working through it. I'll have a lot more to share at the next quarterly call. Some of the things we're doing, we are starting our meetings with DEI moments now. We're going to be doing an inclusivity review of some of our documents to make sure the language is inclusive. Our website, our I can't think of the word, bylaws, etc. We're also going to start a program for DEI ambassadors at conferences. So Jeff was talking about how a lot of these events can be really intimidating, and more so if you're not, kind of the straight white male group. So we're hoping that'll make our local conference a lot more welcoming. One of our main issues is geographic. So we represent Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming, but most of our participation is really from the urban centers of Colorado. So we're looking for ideas to expand our access there, whether that's virtual meetings or hosting in different locations. But I would love to hear ideas from MAs that represent multiple states, if some of you have had issues with that and how you've addressed those challenges. And then love the idea about the operators. We really have a lot of engineers in our group, and we'd love to get operators and maintenance and a lot of other job titles participating. So thank you guys. This is great.
Thank you, Emily. That was great. Actually, I'm gonna turn your question around. Are there any MAs here that represent multiple states that want to share about their experiences or how they've manage that?
Hi, this is Steve King from the New England area. We probably don't have the geographic distance that you may have to deal with, but it is hard trying to organize the different states. I feel that the success has definitely been with a lot of reaching out and advertising to the different states and the state directors at that level, and being able to make sure that they're spreading the word out to the different chairs and committees to try and get them more involved. So we usually host a DE&I meeting once a month, and obviously make sure we try and reach out to all the different states to make sure we get participation from them, because we're always interested to hear what the different states are doing as far as DI on their side as well. So feel free to reach out to me directly. I can drop my email in the chat and we can talk more.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, so we've got time for about one more member to share if they'd like. Is anyone willing to be our brave last story? I will call you out. I'll pick on someone. Steve, Hamai, there you are. It's good to see you again. Do you want to introduce yourself?
This is impromptu, y'all. So I just want to say thank you for having me here. My name is Steve Hamai. I've been working at Seattle Public Utilities for the past 15 years. I lead our agency's what we call Race Social Justice Initiative. And specifically, where I work is called Environmental Justice and Service Equity. I just can't tell you how excited I am to be in this space with all of you. I would tell you that a lot of us here, of course, have been in the industry for many, many years. But to see this many people come together focused around DE&I issues is absolutely inspiring. 15 years ago, there were very few of us doing this kind of work. So I just want to say that I've been a standing member of the WEF board's DE&I committee. There's a number of us here on the call, and I think I can't speak for all of us, but I know that we are excited that you are all pulling us all together. I really hope that in the near future we can think of physically getting together at a conference or something that maybe was already in existence to really dive deep into our efforts. I think there's this is just sort of scratching the surface. I think there are really strong connections to work around or concern around environmental justice, in addition to issues like workforce development and training and other related areas. So at the board, we've been very active in developing resources for you all to use. They're available online on WEF's website. We really enjoy the strong support of the Board of Trustees, who are very invested in this work as well. Shout out to Donnell, who until very recently was co-leading that effort and that committee, along with Megan Yu Schneider from Los Angeles. So I just want to say that I feel a little gray-haired and long in the tooth around this work because I've been doing it for a while, and I just want to say more than anything else that this is all about relationship building. We have to see ourselves in relationship with one another. It's a message that I give to my coworkers all the time, that without strengthening and building our relationship, doing this work is hard enough in isolation, but if we understand that we're all working on this together. We've already heard stories today about how people have messaged to their own leadership that we're not the only ones doing this. So let's continue. My plea is for us to continue to be an inspiration to one another around this work, and for all of you to take an interest about what's happening at the board committee level as well. I think we've got a lot of good things going on there too. So that's enough for me. I just want to say hello and thank you for inviting us into this space.
Thank you, Steve. Very gracious. So with that, I'll pass it to Haley, and then maybe Joe and Donnell can close us out for the day.
Yeah, man, it's tough to summarize the takeaways from this call. It's been exponentially better than what I was expecting. And thank you all for taking my whirl of an introduction to the cool toolkit and really expanding it by, sharing stories of how you've used it. That was really powerful. And like I said, please feel free to pass on suggestions and comments for ways that we can continue to adapt that toolkit and keep it applicable and useful to you all. So that's all I wanted to recap. So Danelle or Joe, if you want to close it off.
Yeah, and I guess I just want to make sure I give a shout out to Valerie for hosting and leading and making this an awesome call. So you blew it out of the park. This is fantastic.
Team effort. Great job, y'all.
So thank you for that. And everybody on this call, this is the ground floor. Like Donnell was saying, this is exciting, right? We're staring up at the mountain. This is the beginning. So just want to reiterate as we close that this is your call. This isn't the HOD DE&I Committee's call. This isn't, any one organization's call. This is really your call as MA is just being a part of the committees and the leadership teams, or just simply a member of the organization. Anything that you want to make of this call, please get in touch with us at the HOD DE&I Committee. You can reach out to your delegate. They know how to get a hold of us as well. If you're familiar with Kelsey, she knows how to get a hold of us as well. So let us know what you want this to be. So like Haley said, there's like 1 billion takeaways. So this is fantastic. We probably have the next 8, 10, 12 quarters we could plan, but it's really about what you guys want to hear. So please reach out, let us know. And I was gonna chime in, but there's so much good conversation going on. Like, use this space to reach out if you just have a question on and don't know what to do, or you have an issue that you want help with. And we saw that happen in Fargo. It was fantastic. Like, hey, I have this problem and I don't have a solution for it. And like 5-10 people were like, hey, we did this, or we looked at the problem this way, or hey, I know somebody that had the same problem and this is how they solved it. So, use this space not to just share successes, but ask for help if you're at a roadblock or you need something. So really appreciate it. Donnell, if you want to give us the final words.
Hey, thanks to everyone. I feel like a proud uncle. This has been beautiful. I sat here and I almost shed a tear because we have been working behind the scenes for years to push this thing forward, and to see all the people from around the country that have been working behind the scenes coming together to say, hey, let's hold hands and let's win together. And this is the beginning. And I want to thank this committee, the DE&I Committee of the House of Delegates, for setting this thing up, the WEF staff for organizing it. Thanks to the board DE&I Committee for doing the groundwork years ago. Thanks to Ifatayo and the board for starting with the task force years ago. This is all part of our journey, and I'm excited to see where we are going to land up. If we do this together, we are going to make a mark on our industry that will never be forgotten. And we just have to stick together and continue to share ideas and continue to reach out if we need help, because all of us have something to contribute. So I'm excited, and we have officially taken off. This was our first meeting. So thank you to every one of you. Have a wonderful day, wonderful quarter. We will see you in a couple months. Everybody enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Last but not least, I forgot to mention, end of April, the last 2 weeks of April, that's when we're planning the next one. That's the target, somewhere in there. So be on the lookout from something. It'll come the same way from Kelsey, same meeting format. So end of April, we'll see you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
Bye, everyone.